Trudeau is playing the fiscal responsibility card in terms of his address to the armed forces. And believe it or not, somehow blackface weaseled in some little sermon about climate change. Check out the video, folks.
All learned what an atmospheric river was when it hit BC. Climate change is having a real destabilizing and negative impact with more and more frequent extreme weather events at home. And as challenging as it is at home, the impacts around the world where people are in more precarious economic and geographic situations than we are. That's a new reality that has huge implications for security around the world, which is one of the reasons why Canada is stepping up to build the Centre of Excellence for Climate Security in Montreal. That's one of the announcements we're going to be making tomorrow at the NATO summit. Because everywhere in the realm, but particularly in areas where there is particular intersections between geographic and climate realities and conflict, think of the Sahel, think of parts of Southeast Asia, that's going to be a new challenge we all have to deal with. We're also dealing with the hangover of the pandemic that knocked us around as economies, but also knocked us around as individuals. Put a lot of stress on families, on people trying to figure out a way through. Add the extra challenges of social media and levels of misinformation and disinformation that had friends carried off by it.
Yeah, I wonder what that misinformation and disinformation would be. Maybe like the Dr. Carolyn Bennett last year tweeting out that she just got her 2 COVID-19 vaccine injections plus 2 boosters. I regret to say I'm now quarantining because I have COVID. Thank goodness all my medications are up to date. Yeah, way to go, Doc. Khaleesi, do we have you from the greater Montreal area?
I think so. Do you hear me well?
I hear you right away. Thank you so much. So, Alexa, I think you were online to see that clip. What was your impression of that speech? Somehow he's talking to military men. We know that for certain because when he's talking to the military or he's talking to blue-collar workers like plumbers or, say, firefighters, he does 3 things, Blackface does. He gets rid of the tie. He drops his suit jacket and he rolls up his sleeves, his shirt sleeves. You know, he's like one of you, like he's ready to get his hands dirty. Not. But in any event, what did you make of that speech where he's talking to soldiers and somehow the prime directive is fighting climate change by the military?
Yeah.
What the hell's going on?
But first of all, he's a really horrible drama teacher. So we can see that, first of all. Of course, like he's talking about climate change. First of all, it's virtue signaling, like saying like we are doing whatever we can to fight it, to military people who are deployed somewhere else, not at all like for climate change. Like, I don't know what he's talking about, what he's thinking, what he was doing that. But when he talked about that we are in the hangover of the pandemic, I was like, we are probably like, yeah, we are in the hangover of the pandemic because the SAQ or ILCBO or liquor store was like allowed to be open as essential place to go. So yeah, a lot of people like probably are in hangover of this pandemic because of you.
Exactly. Yeah. But you know, Alexa, it is counterintuitive, I think, to be addressing the military and weaving in climate change because, you know, let's face it, with all those fighter jets flying overhead, with the emissions coming out of the tailpipe of a tank and other armored vehicles. For goodness sakes, even the gunpowder going off with the gun shooting. You know what? Yeah, there is a carbon footprint attached to war. So what's the solution in Blackface's world if Canada is invaded? Hey, you know what? The bigger problem is not us losing our independence. It's the climate crisis or the climate catastrophe or the climate emergency. I don't know what the in vogue term is, Alexa. So why don't we just bend the knee, surrender, and we'll abide by, I don't know, the mandarins running communist China. By the way, I did say 10 years ago that this is the regime I most admire for getting things done. But is he suggesting that surrender is an option if it means that going to war is going to be a climate event for Canada?
Not only that take like carbon footprint, but the conference that always take place, like the NATO conference or the climate change conference, health summit conference, all these conferences that took place all around the world, where people are flying with private jet or like other like plane, or like they are taking place in the big building with like a lot of fancy food and stuff like that. This is like high on carbon footprint too. And since then, they are not doing it virtually. They are not doing it like on virtual conference where they should be happening if like the crisis was as high as that. And since then, these conference is still happening. The war is still happening.
Yep.
And all these private jet and like F1 are flying all around, and they don't think that maybe if the crisis was like urgent, maybe.
You know what? That's a brilliant point, Alexa. We don't have to wait for some kind of science fiction solution to avoid flying around the world in a private jet. We have that solution. You know, Zoom, Skype, whatever the app is, you and I and everybody else, we can have a conversation with somebody in the Antarctic, for goodness sakes, if we really wanted to. So there is a solution, but he doesn't embrace it. And I'm sorry to be repetitive, but whenever I cover blackface coming to a venue in the Greater Toronto Area, typically his entourage, the number of vehicles is 8, and they are suburban, supersized suburban SUVs, fossil fuels, 8-cylinder engine. He leaves them idling, whether it's in the winter so they're kept warm for his butt, or in the summer so there's nice air conditioning coming out. And the thing is, Alexa, is that there are EV SUVs, there are plug-in hybrids, there are just regular hybrids, but he won't go that route. You know, to me, it's amazing because you'd think he would virtue signal that way. Hey, look at me, for example. I traded in my big supersized Suburban, burning all that fossil fuel, and now we've got a hybrid or a plug-in hybrid or an EV. But he won't do that. Why won't he do that?
Because he cannot like permit himself to run out of electricity, wait 45 minutes or maybe more, because with 8 or even more SUV, he will not find like station with like as much plug as that. So we would need to wait for all the car to be full